The request is for VDOT to evaluate whether or not the speed limit can be reduced to 35 miles per hour and or install children at play signage.
How about and?
And. Whatever you want.
They wanted it lower. I didn't think they'd win anything more than 10 miles an hour, but I'll let you all take a look at it. It's a dead-end road. It's about 1.25 miles long, maybe a little longer than that.
Do you want me to indicate 35 miles per hour or lower?
Or lower.
Okay. Yes, sir.
But that straight stretch is particularly interesting because while we were there, some people went flying by, and I can see, especially if they're coming the other way, you're not able to see until they come around that curve and they come out from behind that. It's like 3 trees growing up together. When they come out of that, you don't see anything till then.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And thank you for the report on Sparta Road.
Yeah. Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. VDOT, I think, has looked at this issue in the past, but it still is a concern. At Ladysmith, Route 1, just north of Ladysmith, at the intersection there is a turning lane that goes into the Food Line Shopping Center, and also then it goes on down a little further, and it turns into a turning lane to make a left at the stoplight. That turning lane between a short distance from the stoplight to the Food Line Shopping Center is where people can turn in. You can either turn into the doctor's office if you get in that lane, turn to the left, or you can, if you're coming southbound, you can get in that lane to make a left turn, or going northbound, you get in that lane to make a left turn. I have seen personally several accidents about to happen, but people either stopped before the 2 cars collided, or one dashed back over in the other lane. I don't know whether we can do something there to eliminate that lane being able to turn to the left if you're going south, as well as turn to the left if you're going north.
Can you help me understand? Because I'm not super. Is there a center lane that's designated for turn lanes northbound or southbound?
Yeah, it's a center lane,
okay.
And that center lane has arrows where you can turn in opposite directions.
Okay.
So people going south, they'll get in that turning lane about just a little bit north of the Food Line Shopping Center, and they follow that turning lane all the way down to the stoplight. Well, people going north, they get in that turning lane to make a left turn into the bank, and to make a left turn into the doctor's office and the drugstore parking lot. So the 2 cars are on a collision course to begin with, 2 vehicles.
And you would like us to look into see if we can do some other type of signage or markings or something to...
somehow eliminating that center lane where you have the potential of colliding.
Yes, sir. And I know Route 1, we have that condition numerous places throughout the state. And I think it would just the original design and construction. It's
right.
It's out of date. So, but I will ask our traffic engineering
if
section
we can
to look at it.
Right, to see what we can do with the issue there. Maybe shorten the turning lane going south, or one that's going north a little bit, where you cannot turn until you get further south into the lane that goes to the left at the stoplight onto Route 639.
Yes, sir.
Could be just signage, right? The lines painted on the ground.
It may be, but I mean, there are arrows there now, but again, they're conflicting, if you will.
It's a free lane that allows
everybody feels like they have the right of way, and they feel like they can get in the lane up around the Food Line Shopping Center, or a little north of the Food Line Shopping Center, to make a left turn onto 639 or Ladysmith Road to the left at the stoplight. And the people that are going north, they want to turn into the bank, or they want to turn into the doctor's office parking lot. They get in that lane a little bit further south than what they should, and again, the 2 cars, 2 vehicles.
We will look into it and report back.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
Mr. Underwood, you said you had a question?
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask a question about Route 30 going from State Fair towards King William up Don Boulevard. coming over the hill at 652, traffic picks up at the speed limit there, I think, needs to be looked at. That traffic goes pretty fast down 30 to down Don Boulevard going toward King William.
Is that, pardon me, is that prior to 301 intersection?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
From 652 over the hill down to 301. I think we need some kind of traffic control there. Slow that traffic down. I don't know what can be done. I don't know if we need to reduce the speed limit or, I think we need to take a look at it. When I was out campaigning, traffic was moving at a very quick pace. And the residents on the right-hand side and on the left of 30. So trying to come out of their driveways could be a potential for a major issue.
Okay. So you'd like, if I might, you'd like us to evaluate to see if the speed limit can be reduced from what is currently posted?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Of course, you're coming from a 4-lane down to a 2-lane, but traffic still moves at a high rate of speed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You are, Mr. Underwood. And I've got a couple, if you don't mind. Maybe Mr. Fincham can help me when I get to that point. But on 207, the Belmont subdivision, there was a study done on a sound barrier behind the Arby's. Since we've redesigned that road and that interchange, I would like VDOT to kind of look at that study again to see if a sound barrier was justified. And if you want any input onto whether it's justified, just speak to any of the folks that live in the townhouses right behind it, because they seem to think it's a lot noisier than it should have been.
Okay.
It was also reported that there appears to be a 652 sign that's down. So it's one of the street signs is down. It's apparently just laying down the road, and I guess the maintenance crew never got word of it, so they didn't put it back up.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Fincham, if you would help me, we have road acceptance still to be done on Gallant Fox, Affirmed, Seattle Slough, and some others. So in this case, the roads don't yet belong to VDOT, but the developer is supposed to be improving those roads so that they can be accepted?
December 15th is the tentative completion date for
The developer?
the roads finished by the developer.
Okay.
Then it has to go through the review and acceptance process for VDOT.
Okay, so once they're accepted by VDOT, then we'll be able. Now, when VDOT accepts a road, do they also get the sidewalks that go with the road? I'm going to hold you to this answer.
I'm not sure then.
Yeah, I figured you were waiting.
And I know
Okay.
in some cases we do, in some cases we don't.
All right.
So, and I don't know what maybe Mr. Fincham.
I'm
knows
going
the
to, well, specifically Mr. Fincham on Triple Crown Drive, and this is the exact address, 2338. There appears to be some very bad sidewalk work, and I don't know whether that was the responsibility of the developer or someone who came in afterwards, but apparently somebody fell out there, and I'm not sure who's to blame or at fault for that, but we'd like to make sure it doesn't happen again.
We'll check. We did get some comments from VDOT regarding the roads yet to be completed and sidewalk repairs that were necessary as part of the completion of that road work. So,
Okay. Well, I do appreciate that. Worst comes to worst, I still have a bond that I can use to repair these if I have to myself, right? Yes, sir. Okay. All right, I think that's it.
Can you can you restate the names of those roads?
Sure. I have, Mr. Fincham has them, but I have Gallant Fox, Affirmed, Seattle Slough, and Triple Crown was the one where the sidewalks were. Did I miss any? Traverse Street.
Thank Thank you. And if I might add, the board had asked about our unpaved roads, rural rustic, at the meeting that I came to. I can't recall whether it was last month or month before. Rylands Road and Schoolhouse Road. I'm pleased to report that that we completed those routes. We do have a couple of easement issues that that we're working with property owners and need to work with the county there at the end of at the cul-de-sac ends.
Okay.
But want to report that we did. The question was, were we going to complete by December? And I think I indicated that we were, and in fact, we are substantially complete.
Okay. Mr. Thomas. Great. You're a man of your word. We appreciate that. Mr. Seeley?
Sorrel Lane was on the unpaved roads. Do we know if that's for this year? Sorrel Lane.
I think relative to your secondary 6-year program and plan that was approved and signed off for this fiscal year, I don't recall that road being on there. But I will say that it's something that we need to look at. Whatever the board and the county wants relative to their priorities of next roads, we would like to know that, and we'd like to work with you on prioritizing those projects and whatever funding is available.
Okay, I thought it was on the list.
It could have been the list has been the list for 5 or 6 years, and we just got to the ones on the list. So what happens is we'll look at the list, and as funds become available, whatever the board has decided would be next on the list is the one that gets done.
Mr. Seeley, it was approved in the most recently adopted 6-year secondary roads plan. So Sorrel Lane is in there. It just was not in the current fiscal year. And I believe I have an email from the district which identifies the date that road is included in the 6-year plan, and I will find that and forward that to you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Mr. Fincham, one last thing just to make sure. You did say there's a bond for Belmont that we could fix these things if the developer doesn't fix them in a...
I will double check all the roads. We still have bonds related to
the road projects
that have not been completed. Okay. If a road has been already dedicated to VDOT and is currently maintained by them, we do not have a bond for that section of road.
So sounds like what you're saying is when the road is accepted by VDOT, the bond is released?
Yes, for that section. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we need to make sure that the roads that we're discussing now are fixed before we release the bond.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I'm sure Mr. Parker, who's sitting back there, the president of the Belmont Homeowners Association, will be in touch with you and so forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay. All righty, moving to the, yes, sir. Oh, moving to the...
I just want to make sure that we...
Item 7.
Item 7 is completely clear because Mr. Van der Laan doesn't want to, he and his wife doesn't want to stay the rest of the meeting, I'm sure. We should hear something from VDOT tomorrow, because you're only working half a day tomorrow. Let's say Friday, let's say Monday, because I think you guys get the rest of the week off as well.
VDOT never sleeps.
Yeah, they sleep.
Right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That is correct, Mr. Thomas. But Mr. Akers, can you...
It's correct. You have the rest of the week off, right?
Yes, we do. But now, through the winter, this is when we shine.
My question is, so that Lake Caroline Board of Directors can go ahead and start planning for the future, when will you be able to get back with Mr. Pardon to say, yes, we are involved, or no, we're not involved, and if we are involved, we have no problem with the district that you're wanting to create the zoning speed zone in Lake Caroline, and they can move ahead and order the signs and get things put in place? Because
I'm making an obligation for others, and I'm going to be responsible for what I say. I believe that no later than the end of next week, we will get you information back on what Mr. Parton provided me relative to a request.
Okay. December 2nd. That's Friday of next week.
Yes, sir.
That sounds fair?
Absolutely.
Jack?
Okay. All right.
So he'll know he can tell his board of directors where the direction to go in. Okay.
And we'll at least know. So, okay.
Thank you.
Having cleared that up, we could probably take up agenda item number 7 if there's a motion to approve this resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the resolution as presented by staff concerning the speed zone in Lake Caroline.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Popowitz. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. So we will move on to agenda item number 3, which is the consent agenda. The board, before we do that, the board will notice that our agenda lacks, and I meant to mention this during board comments, our agenda lacks anything related to utilities. Mr. Shebold had a death in the family and was out, so we basically pulled all the utility-related items off the agenda since we didn't have him to go over those. So I expect us to have a pretty detailed utility agenda in December. But moving to the consent agenda, is there anything anyone would like to have pulled off? I'm going to pull item E if I don't hear anything else. So is there a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda then?
So moved.
Okay. Second. Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Popowitz. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Just as a procedural issue, I asked to pull agenda item number E off, which is the abandonment of the school access road for the Bowling Green primary. And since we haven't had a discussion with the school board and they may decide to do something different, I think we ought to wait until they've confirmed that decision before we, abandon that road. So.
Okay.
And it's really just a procedural thing for us.
I was surprised it was still a road.
According to them, it's going to be part of the building will be sitting on the road. So we are going to abandon it if that's what they decide to do, but I figured it's best for us to wait to do that. So, all righty. Gee whiz. Without utilities, we're missing. I can't do anything for public comments or public hearings. Blah, 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 blah. Mr. Parton, you want to give us your county administrative report? And then we'll take about a 15-minute break. Which should be pretty good.
Mr. Chairman, a few items to report here. First, staff has been meeting with Jeff Black, the newly elected representative from the Western Carolina District, in an effort to get him up to speed and ready to take office in January. We completed about half of our department head meetings and are scheduling the rest of the meetings for next week. So, county offices, as you know, will close tomorrow at noon and remain closed until Monday in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. We have the annual Senior Citizens Gala coming up on December 1st at 6 o'clock at the high school. We have the meeting with the school board coming up on December 6th, the joint meeting at 6 o'clock here at the Community Services Center. Mr. Seeley mentioned the Bowling Green Parade on December 10th at 5 p.m. And at the request of Mr. Akers, we have invited our General Assembly delegation. We have some new members there, of course, to come to the December 13th board meeting to talk about issues of concern for the upcoming session. We've only heard from Delegate Cox thus far. Unfortunately, he's unable to make it on the 13th. So if we want to have the full delegation, we'll need to come up with an alternative date. Waiting to hear from the rest of the delegation on that.
When's the assembly convene?
This is a long session, so I don't know
Right.
what the starting date is, but it's
Early in January.
First week in January.
Our meeting would be scheduled for the 10th normally. So I don't know of January.
Okay,
So-
well, I mean, the first meeting, okay. Yeah, well, I think that's going to be the first day of the General Assembly, or maybe at Monday, maybe the first day of the General Assembly night. It's probably going to be the beginning of the General Assembly. I was just thinking maybe if they were available on the 6th of December when we meet with the school board, we could have them come in after we met with the school board I just think it's important because I can tell you there are a lot of things going to be happening in the General Assembly this year that's going to impact and affect local governments, and I think we need to go on record with our members as to how we feel about those particular issues.
And, the VDOT
Before they get
representative, the VDOT representative left or is leaving, and the biggest one I think we heard was devolution, which is basically VDOT giving the road responsibility to the counties.
Secondary roads, that's exactly
And with the counties having no additional funding that goes along with it, so that would be a big issue.
Another big issue that I think is going to impact localities is the fact that the Auditor of Public Accounts has written a letter. Mr. Pardon, have you seen a copy of that letter from the auditor about local governments sending the fines to Richmond on local tickets that they write, traffic violations, that the money be sent to Richmond and then they will send it back to the localities. That's a big impact on localities. Really big. For Caroline County, traffic fines and things of that nature is probably about $300,000, $400,000 a year of the revenue for the county. So if we have to send that to Richmond and then let them, at their leisure, send what they think we deserve back, that's troubling. So there are many. I know there's a committee looking at the mandates, and at a recent conference I was at, they were talking in terms of they're looking at all mandates that do not cost money. They're not looking at any mandates that cost localities money because the state's not going to come up with a difference.
Right.
So they're looking at things that are not costing them anything. There are a lot out there, and I don't think we have looked at those. I think what we have been looking at have been mandates that have money, attached to them. But I think there are a lot of issues. Another issue that I think that we have to look at is the fact that a lot of the agencies, when they find a local government in violation of a policy that they have increased the fines on local governments. To me, that's digging into local government's revenue to enhance the state's revenue. The policy of sending $60 million, not Caroline County, we sent about, $130,000, $150,000 back every year to the state government. What is the amount we local aid to state government?
Somewhere there.
But for the entire state, it's $60 million. And so we just have to let our elected officials know that, hey, you're really killing local governments. You're pushing them into bankruptcy. You're pushing them into raising taxes on the citizens of Caroline County, but not stepping up to the plate and doing what you're supposed to be doing and providing the services you are obligated to provide. And we haven't had this kind of meeting for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I mean, it's been a long time since we used to regularly meet with the members of the General Assembly. We haven't had that type of discussion with our representatives for many years.
It's been a while. Whatever year was we approved the state fair, that was the last time we met with them, because we met with them over there, so it's 6, 7 years ago at least. Okay. That and the fact that money we send to Richmond seems to come back a lot less than what we sent, which is another story. So, all right. Mr. Parton, if I could add a couple of things to your county administrator report. We have scheduled the swearing in. Oh, I'm sorry. You go right ahead. Okay. Well, we've scheduled the swearing in to be December 22nd at 3 p.m. And there is an employee luncheon at 12 p.m., which is going to be here at the EOC. And then we're going to do swearing in at the courthouse, or you want the judge to come in? Okay. We're still working out the logistics of where the judge is going to be. But that's one thing that we need to keep our calendars free for, and that's the swearing in for all elected officials, school board, constitutional officers, and all. So December 22nd at 3 is what we're looking for, and I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Mr. Parton. You go right ahead. Okay. All right, that was it. We have 2 public hearings. Then we're going to talk about privatization. We did the county administrator's report, and then we'll do closing comments, and that'll be it. Okay. We will adjourn until 7:30, so we'll stand adjourned. All right, we will reconvene the November 22nd board meeting With public comment at this time, anyone who would like to speak regarding any item that's not a public hearing may do so. And we knew you had something to say, so we asked you to come on down.
Thank you. My name's Suzanne Sumner. I'm a resident of File. I'm here this evening as the treasurer of the Friends of Caroline Library. On Saturday, December 3rd, the Caroline Library is hosting our 24th Holiday Bazaar here in the Community Services Center. This event is a fundraiser for the library system, and our primary source of revenue is from registration fees from the vendors who sell their wares. We've learned that this year the county is requiring vendors from outside Caroline County to purchase business licenses for this 5-hour event. This requirement was not known to us, and we were unable to notify our vendors of this rule when they signed their contracts with us. 3 of our vendors have canceled rather than pay for the business license for a once-a-year event. We are requesting a waiver for the business license fees for this year, but in future years we would certainly include this business license fee requirement in vendor contracts. Our research of neighboring counties shows that none of them have this business license requirement for these types of fundraising events except Spotsylvania County. In Spotsylvania, a vendor must gross $200,000 before the business license fee kicks in. Perhaps Caroline County could adopt a similar policy to Spotsylvania's so that we are not more hostile to bringing in outside business into Caroline County than our neighboring counties. In any case, we are requesting a waiver of the business license fee for outside vendors for this year's Holiday Bazaar. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. We'll continue the public comment section, and I believe the board was going to discuss that particular issue in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the board regarding any matter? Good evening, Mrs. Lambert.
Good evening, Mr. Thomas, board. I understand that each time I come here, it gets easier for you to tune me out and discard anything that I say. I do not derive pleasure from this. I do it because I care. As you may or may not know, I lost my administrative appeal at the BZA regarding the location of concerts at the Meadow. It is not the loss itself that disturbs me. It was the process both before and during the whole affair that bothers me greatly. I had asked to meet with the county attorney to discuss my difference of opinion and to show my evidence as to the county's failure to follow its own ordinance. I even offered to pay. I was told that this was not an option and I must go to the BZA at a cost of $600. When the board was made aware of this at one of its meetings and public comments, they expressed that something could be done. I left a message with the county administration, but I did not hear from anyone within the county. At the BZA, the same legal counsel who generally answers questions for the board and gives legal advice announced she would not be able to aid them at this meeting since she would be seated with the administrator of zoning who I had the difference of opinion with. She stated that we could adjourn and take up the matter at another time. This to me does not have the appearance of fairness. This is also the same person who I tried to meet with when I talked to the county so that I didn't have to go through this whole process. Once the zoning administrator made his comments regarding concerts during the fair, legal counsel made statements that it is the intent of the Board of Supervisors that is to be upheld. So even if there was a question as to the interpretation, it is the intent that matters. If something is unclear, I would want the board itself to address it and tell me what their intent is. Most disturbing is that half of my dispute regarding concert was not even addressed. When I tried to press the matter, they said they would not hear it. I know the intent of my appeal. It was the locations of concerts both during and at other times of the fair. Not just during the State Fair of Virginia, but at any time. I feel used, abused, and I don't feel that I received the full benefit of my appeal. I do not have another $600 to bring another action